Professor Wise, thank you very much for being with us today. Earlier this week, the New York Times reported that there had been a rash of kidnappings, specifically targeting Mexicans that seem to have relatives in the United States and demanding that they wire money from the U.S. To pay for these ransoms. So what is this an indication of that's going on?
Well, it's a reflection of a general sense of lawlessness in northern Mexico, which I do believe the Calderón administration has tried to get a handle on, although as we can see from the last year especially with this explosion of violence and all kinds of illicit behavior, it's really seeping over the border in an ugly way.
And this is, I guess, the concern here. We had perhaps felt this was a problem in Mexico, not of concern to the U.S., but this is showing us how it's now beginning to bleed across the border.
It's absolutely bleeding across the border, and this phenomenon of kidnapping people in the border cities, or there's also been kidnappings in major Mexican communities in the United States, right? But the whole ransom phenomenon, I don't believe that it's so much the amount of money. Certainly the drug cartels are not lacking for money, but it's a way of really sticking it in the face of the United States, quite frankly, and saying, look, we're out of control, we can do what we want, and we're going to continue really seeping into U.S. cities.
Are there other ways it manifests itself in this country beyond just the kidnapping phenomenon?
Well, I believe that there has been, I know that there has been some gang-related crime where it's links to the cartels. All this is rather murky, right? But certainly in Los Angeles, my home turf, there have been drug-related crimes, either with arms trafficking, money laundering, or actual distribution, where the gangs there's so many different gangs along different streets in South Central Los Angeles, where each gang has its own cartel that it's representing. So it's definitely coming home to roost.
Mexico has brought in the army to try to help quell the problem, but I guess the question is, on this side of the border, with the new administration coming to power, how does Barack Obama as president focus on this, and what should be done?
That is a very complicated question, and of course the answer is more so. I think the first thing that we have got to come to terms with in this country is somehow get at the demand side in U.S. society. It's anathema or almost blasphemous to talk about, for example, taking the lifting prohibition on drugs, right? In other words, reducing the cost, legalizing them in some way. But the fact of the matter is that unless we take the profit out of it and we take the crime out of it, however we want to do it, I believe we're going to see an escalation of this violence. So more of the same, helicopters, infrared oversight, and this kind of thing is what the Merida initiative, the Bush administration initiative, promises. And I think the critics are right when they say it's more of the same. And under the so-called war on drugs in the U.S., we're seeing an upward secular trend in violence, drug use, and drug access.
Professor Wise, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.